We're really maximizing this space. And this is the build out. I mean, we've completed it. The thing is like, we got the space, but we can't afford to do anything else with it, So this is what we've got.
The GTs are going to be the popular model, and then they're coming out with 75-footer.
All right. Well, I'm about to walk into this meeting, so.
Okay.
All right.
Testing 1, 2, 3. It's Kid Rock.
It's not Kid Rock. It's Gary V. I mean, this is fine.
All right. So here we are, episode 3.
The Phantom Menace, Star Wars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've actually.
Is this
Stand up 3 when
episode
they
3?
introduced Anakin?
Where's episode 2 at?
You didn't give me the clearance.
Is it echoing in here?
I mean, it's echoing in here. It's not echoing in the mic. I don't think it is at all.
It kind of sounds like it's echoing.
I mean, if it is, then there's really not shit we can do. Maybe we could drop some tiles down.
No. Anyways, all right. Episode 3.
Episode 3, the Since I Was Broke podcast.
We're in our new podcast studio. It's another makeshift studio, but it's new, and there's nobody here to bother us.
I'd rather have the echo than like people walking in and out, the warehouse.
Also, the aesthetic in here is a little better.
Yeah, so I mean, since we're in here, let's jump into it. We've been incubating how we're gonna go forth with this podcast, but since we're sitting here right now, we talked about a little bit in episode 2, but where are we right now? Obviously, it's our makeshift podcast studio, but what's the future of this place that we've dubbed Montana?
Yeah, this is there's a reason for that, but this is our stone studio, or to be stone studio, for our stone and marble business. We have a couple other warehouses, but I really wanted this super clean aesthetic. Really, I keep saying this, I probably hear it a million times from me, but like the restoration hardware of the stone and marble business, right? When you walk into a restoration hardware, it's it's just like all about aesthetics. It's like these nice polished floors and these huge setup rooms that kind of evoke you to want to do a space in your house or do a renovation or just furnish something epic. And that's kind of the idea here. Have these super tall 30-foot ceilings, and this is a brand new warehouse, so the floors are virgin floors that we had polished. We have skylights in here, which is kind of new aesthetic for warehouse buildings. It's kind of, people are wanting more natural light. So it's a super cool space from a stone perspective. Everybody else just has usually like older style warehouses. It's just everything's racked up, super tight, super congested, and it's just like you walk into like a dingy warehouse where you're buying stone. And so for here, I want to feel like you're walking into like restoration hardware or like a car dealership or something really curated, and it's not super congested and everything's spaced out, almost like you're in like an art gallery for stone. Because we're targeting, the higher end market, people that are into nice cars and nice houses and doing, starting price point on a house might be $3 million and might go up to $40 million. And so, those people, when you sell them something, they kind of want to feel that like a lifestyle perspective. And so that's kind of, we're trying to come in here and make them want to do a project and see some incredible stone that, they put in that kitchen that is an Architectural Digest, or it's going to do that bathroom that, shared all over TikTok. That's like the bathroom to be doing, with incredible marble, Vaglis and Macchia Vecchias and Calcutta Gold. And so that's what the space is intended for, but it just takes a while. So we've gotten the space, we've polished the floors. Now we got to get all these approvals. We don't even have full electric in here yet. We got to get all the approvals for like the build out for the offices and all the structures that we're putting in here and sample rooms and stuff like that. But that's the end goal for here. It's kind of months out. So for now, we kind of just have this really open, clean warehouse where we can shoot this podcast or do some content or whatever in the meantime, while we kind of wait for GCs in this town and state to kind of stop dragging their feet and push the needle a little bit.
Well, and while we wait for the grand behemoth of offices to come ready, which is a future.
Yeah,
possibly.
Yep, and it's the future. We haven't really talked about it, but we have a potential new office location that we will be diverting some of our folks to.
That's just something we can clip back to. Like, we'll just clip back to this. We'll drop it there, but we clip back to this like in the future. And
Yeah,
we'll
we
be
got.
like, oh,
Listen,
damn.
we got for office perspective. Like I always like warehouse because to me, I'm like, you have a warehouse, you can always build an office, and then if you don't need an office, you can always use it for storage space. And like, storage space is
functional.
It's super functional. But we were first looking at doing this massive build out in here, and it's a lot of money for what I was trying to do, a gym and like all these glass encased walls and really robust. And we decided just to do the stone in here, so a little more trim back. But I've still been looking for this super creative office space that, I mean, even back to the first episode, that's kind of like what we try to create in Carbro.
Yeah.
So like Carbro on steroids. And so, I've been looking for a space to do that and not lease one and dump a bunch of money into it, and then we have no ownership. So we finally found a space that Toyota Racing Development used to own or still owns until we buy it, and they did the build out that I would do. I mean, I walked in there and it's it's like $1.2 million, $1.3 million build out, and it's got an epic gym set up and epic offices, and it's multi-level, sick kitchen, huge garage doors that automate and roll up, and it's wired for all the sound system and audio, video, and it's what I would do. So when I walked in there, I was like, dude, this makes all the sense in the world. I'm buying it for less than replacement cost. I don't have to wait 12 months plus to do a build out, and it's ready to go, and it's like the right size for us. So I think I'm excited about that, but that hasn't come yet. That'll probably we'll lock that up before the end of the year. I mean, we're under contract, but
yeah. Well, I think there's something to be said about like having the baton passed to you in a way too. It's like you come into a space like this and it's kind of up to you and your own devices to like literally be the visionary of how everything's going to happen. And that's fun to some degree, but there's also something to be said of like walking into a space that's already been taken from like 1 to 10 and being like, oh shit, now I can just take this from where it's at and like make it even better without having to do all the legwork and the time. And like sometimes I feel like in the time it takes to go from like totally blank canvas to like an 8 on your vision board, some things get lost in translation and like they just take too long and it doesn't always manifest the way that you would assume. So when you walk into a place like that, like I remember you talking about it and I was like, all right, like we'll see. And you go in there, you're like, oh shit, this is like the real deal. It's like a real office,
Well, it's like when we build houses, like we're building the Largo project, and it's like, it was supposed to be done in October. It's fucking October. This shit's not gonna be done until next year. And it's just a lot of things come up in time, and then you think of ideas along the way, and like, I don't know, new trends come out or new styles or something else comes that you want to put in, and so like it just takes forever. So there's like a price on time, for sure. If you value
enthusiasm, I think too. I think it's like that's something I think about even in music a lot. Is like there's a lot of people out there that will sit on stuff for so long, and it's like a lot of times right when you make something is when you're most enthusiastic about it, and the longer it takes between just like making it and being done with it and like seeing it completed, you lose that initial enthusiasm. And even if it was great, you're just like less ecstatic about it because it took so long. So I think that's what's exciting about that place.
That place is, I mean, I walked in and I was like, whoever built this out has the same brain as me, because this is like almost to the T how I was conceptualizing a space. It's just like fully done and like right. Like, I walked into plenty of space, people like, no expense, like no expense spared. And I'm like, every expense is spared. And this one, I was like, no expense was spared for real. And the price that we're getting, I was like, yeah, I wouldn't, if I bought the space raw and did this build out, I would spend more money and time and effort. And like, so it's like, I look at it, I'm like, if you're just way below replacement cost and it's fucking epic. Sure, there's some tweaks here and there to make it, completely ours, but like, dude, it's got more than the bones are there. I mean, like, it's like, it's just 80% it's just putting it, it's just like, adding a little bit of a tweak on its workout plan, just to fucking fully optimize it.
Yeah, no, that's true. I think I wanted to go back to what you're saying right here too, in terms of like creating a certain experience and understanding the customer one, but also I think it brings up something that we talk about pretty often, which is that when people come in and they try to like create the experience you're talking about, but they cut corners and they do try to spare the expenses to the customer that we're talking about, like for the for that type of person, like it's really obvious, you know, and then
Yeah.
that builds and it builds mistrust, and it like immediately might even like, you know, ruin that person as a potential customer. So I think there's something to be said about being patient and knowing how to do it correctly. And one, you know, serving a person that's probably very similar to yourself in terms of being a customer, but also, you know, I think that that's something that happens very often is that people try to create a certain experience that's front facing, but then underneath the surface level, it's just all fluff and there's nothing there, whether that's the space they're building, the product they're building, all these different things. And so I think that, you know, there's definitely something to be said about being patient and just doing it correctly and creating that experience instead of just trying to rush through it in this to get it to a presentable space to where people can kind of get that like half-baked experience that you're
Yeah, well, I
talking
think it's
about.
also like it's knowing your customer. Like when I'm doing houses, like there's so many options, right? Like I could be doing houses that are like sub 100,000. I could be doing houses that are like 250,000 to 500,000, and I just play in this realm of like 1 million plus, like 1 million to 10, you know? And the reason I do this because like I'm the person that wants that stuff. I've been dreaming about those kinds of houses for so long. I've nerded out on all the aesthetics and aspects and like finishes on a house like that. So like when I started doing them for myself, like I knew exactly what was needed. I knew what the best product was. I knew what the best material was. I knew what best practice was to get this done. I knew what the level of execution was. And so like I know my product because like I'm my buyer, but there's a lot of people that are not a buyer for a $5 million house. And they're like, well, let's do that as a project. And then they don't know what level it takes to get there. That's the same as me. The reverse is like, I'm doing $5 million houses. And I'm like, oh, let me do a $500,000 house. And then I put in material that's way too expensive, crazy herringbone floors that's too expensive to be putting in. And then I go there and it's like, I put in way too much money. I'm never going to get my money out of it. So it's like knowing your product, knowing your customer, and then like servicing that accurately. And so like for me, for that office, it's like, yeah, some people will be like, you know, like my broker is like, he's like, yeah, I mean, for the average consumer, if we're just trying to, you know, like if you're trying to sell this down the road, like, I don't know if they're going to want this. Like, I don't know if you could rent this and get the money's worth out of it. But I'm like, I'm the consumer, I'm the buyer. And I also think this is where offices are heading. This is what people are going to want because like, most offices were like this traditional office where you go in and you just like work. And every office I've tried to do is like, I'm like, I want a space that you want to go to. Like, we might not just go to work. Let's go hang out. Let's shoot a podcast. Let's create this environment. Like, dude, I just want to go here and collaborate. And so, like, that's where people are going now. That's why, like, the WeWorks and stuff like that kind of model works. It's like creating that thing where, like, a bunch of heads can come together and collaborate and not just be working on one thing or it's like, it's just business all the time. Like, that's where those spaces are going because like people want to go to a space like that and they don't forever want to work from home. I think they just like home because they're like, oh, it has this fun vibe where I can relax and do all these other things other than just work. And if you create an environment where you can do all those other things and work, it's like people are going to want to go to that. People are going to want to pay for that.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, it's the same reason people pay memberships to go to WeWorks and whatnot. But I think you're absolutely right in an age where working from home is absolutely viable for a lot of companies and people, and infrastructure has been put in place for that. It's like if you're going to have an office, it needs to be a place that people want to go to and are enthusiastic about and are gonna, you know,
I mean, people that are playing at that level too. It's like I'm not trying to sell. Like I could sell in the lower market and I could probably have a bigger pool of buyers, but I'm not trying to sell to that. I'm trying to have the one buyer that has the money that wants to spend it, and I'm going to curate and create an environment where they walk in and they say, yeah, this is what I want. Like that's the guy that's going to spend the money. It's the same thing with speccing cars or anything else. It's like, yeah, if you do it really high end, sure, your buyer pool's less, but like there's buyers out there. And if you do it right and you know that buyer and what they're looking for, it's like, you're going to have a buyer for it. I mean, it's just like, again, it's knowing your market, knowing your product, like knowing how to execute on it and then sticking with that. And then like staying in your lane. Like if you try to go too wide and do everything, it's like, you're going to fuck up, you know? So like,
yeah, well, it's like you were talking about the other day too, when you get into these, like higher ticket goods, very expensive luxury items and things like that, you start to, even though it is a much smaller pool of people, it's much more often that you're going to be rubbing shoulders with those same people and build those connections because the pool is so much smaller. So it actually becomes easier to establish and nurture relationships to where, you know, when it's time to sell something or when you have something like that, you have the immediate access to people that are going to be that buyer. So I think I think there's something to be said about like having that vision and then being steadfast with it and knowing that, you know, having trust in that vision of that, hey, like this is the right decision, and if I'm to dilute from this, I'm actually going to be selling myself short.
Yeah. Again, it's just like, I think it's confidence, and it's sticking to your guns, and again, I mean, knowing your customer and your product, and like being confident in that. Like, you know, again, like if you're just like throwing shit at the wall all the time, like you're, you know, hopefully eventually something sticks where like it works in your niche and the way your brain works, and like where you pull your resources from. You're like, okay, this is where I'm sticking at, you know? So like, that's for me, it's like, I've tried kind of all those things, and like, I always trend back to like higher end, really good materials, really good execution. I'm like, I'm the guy that would pay for this, and all the people that I market to and network with and end up meeting with, I'm like, those are the people that would be the buyer. And so like, it just works for me. But that doesn't say it couldn't work on the other side too. There's plenty of other people that do the cheaper product and more to the masses. It's just like, again, it's like knowing your product, knowing your customer base, and being able to execute on that.
Yeah. But you've always had like a higher end taste though? Like even since you were younger? Like,
yeah, like I always liked...
At one point, obviously, you weren't able to, since I was broke, right? So at one point, you weren't able to afford these things. You weren't able to like just go out and, you know, make it happen right away. So like, how did you...
Yeah, I've always. And even it's like, I don't know, just like simple mindset shit. Like some people are like, oh man, like the market's down. Like, don't, like boil it down real, like, oh, don't go to Starbucks. And I'm like, fuck this. I don't want to be the guy that has to fucking think if he needs to make coffee at home or go to fucking Starbucks. And like, that's the difference, like in the money. Like, it's like, I want to be the guy who goes to Starbucks. Like, even when I was broke, and maybe it's stupid, but I was like, sometimes I'd scrape coins out of my fucking couch and go to fucking Starbucks. But for me, it was like, I want to be that guy that they wake up, go to Starbucks. It's like, for me, it was like a switch on my brain. Like, all right, I'm going to be productive. I'm going to do something. I'm going to go make the most out of my day. And like, yeah, so it's like, I've always wanted more. Like, I've always liked the nice cars. Like, I've always wanted like the higher end coffee. Like, I always liked higher end furniture. I remember like growing up, my dad was like, the pinnacle is Pottery Barn, you know? And then like, we could afford Pottery Barn, and then like, you know, Restoration Hardware. And now I'm like moving past that. And it's just like, I've always wanted more than what I am even now. And so like, I just like, I don't know, I've always aspired to that. I've always gravitated to that. So like, even if I couldn't afford it, I was always pushing towards that. And I think some people do that. Like, you see a lot of people that are like trying to emulate where they want to be, like the fake it till you make it concept. I just think there's a fine line between like faking it and like not making it and just being a bullshitter, and like eventually kind of like really like telling yourself like, hey, like I've been bullshitting for X amount of time, and like now's the threshold of like, either I fucking do something about it and change shit in my life and actually go for it, or I'm just going to keep doing this fake bullshit. And I know a lot of people that stay in that fake realm for far too long, and then it's like a trap. Like, it's a hamster wheel. You're just stuck in this, like, not doing enough to, like, get out of here, but I'm still going to be playing this game so that other people think that, like, I've made it.
Yeah. Is that still recording?
Oh, fuck. Yeah.
Right. All right, cool. Yeah, I was gonna say, I think that there's a big difference, like especially in the culture we live in now, with so much YouTube and like entrepreneurs on YouTube just like preaching bullshit. I think there's a lot of like younger people and even older people that are very confused about what it means to like fake it till you make it, in like in the sense of like, hey, just like hold that vision and keep working towards it, and then like literally just being delusional and projecting delusions out there. Because I think that people will feed themselves that delusion so much sometimes that they actually buy into it, and then they don't make progress, and they look just ridiculous because it's so see-through. Especially to people that are actually out there doing it. Like, you know, I can totally resonate with, like, for me, it's always been important for me to be in the right environment. Like, I remember when I lived in that townhome in Holly Springs, or even like other suburb areas, like I'd said, I'm like, all right, this is like reasonable, but then I'd wake up, I'm waking up late. I'm like moseying my way to the gym. There's like no energy. I'm getting in trouble in the neighborhood because that's just, I'm like, I have more brash personality. And I'm like, it made me feel a certain way about myself waking up in that environment. Like, is this where I'm at? Like, I'm just like this suburb dwelling guy. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but for me, I always just envisioned being in a city. So I was like after that, I was like, I need to be in cities all the time. Like, I like the energy. I like the thing. So it's just like, it's like a non-negotiable for me is to like be in a environment that has a ton of like energy around it, because it inspires me to like.
Well, that's why I mean, you're completely right. It's like, that's why I love New York. That's why, like, when we were looking at creative space, I'm like, I want an open, inviting space with a ton of light and like this, like, just badass energy. I'm like, because you come in here again, it's like, it motivates you. Like, you're in there, you're like, I want to fucking do something in here. It's like the same restoration hardware that you walk in, like, this is fucking nice as shit. Like, I want to fucking build the house that I can put this fucking furniture into.
Yeah.
Like, and what you're saying is like where you live, like all that stuff. Like, to me, it's the same way. It's like when I got that office in Carborough, it's like I couldn't afford it, but I was like, fuck, dude, I want a space I can go to and feel like there's a creative space. There's a spot I go to and I fucking like kick ass and get shit done. Yeah. And like it worked out because like that was just like, I was like, I'm going to make this work. I don't know how. Every week was like, I don't know how, but I'm going to make it work. And it worked out because I was just constantly pushing. I was like, I'm going to do this regardless. Backs to the wall. And like, I forced myself into it. I signed the fucking lease. I mean, I remember I was like, I don't know, maybe I can like draw money from my credit card to like maybe pay this if like shit hits the fan or it's really bad. I'm like, but I just like put myself in these positions. I'm like, I'm going to make sure that I put myself in a position where like I have to execute. I fucking have to execute, and that's it. And like some people are too scared to do that.
Well, to the point you made earlier about it being a smaller pool, like not everyone would be able to justify that. Like we met through that office having like a similar idea of like I remember when I was like I got to work out of that space, so it did. It's like not for everyone, but then I was like, I'm 35 minutes away from this place, but like I want to go there every day and work. That's like the only spot I can envision going in because of the same qualities that you saw when you saw it. And it's the same even when I walked into the, like condo that I'm living in now. It's like I walked in there and I thought about all the constraints I've had in other places. I'm like, man, even when I want to set my light up and shoot content in my place, I'm like wondering if I can get the light high enough from the ceiling, and like just like these small things that like I think as you go through time and you go through different situations, there's like these small little things that like maybe aren't a huge deal, but they're a big enough deal to where they become these like minuscule non-negotiables in your life. Like I was like, have to have high ceilings.
Yeah.
Love, like walked in there, saw the brick, saw the view, and I was like, this, like saw even just like the tent on the window of like, and immediately I was like, oh man, if I shoot with the camera, like it's going to be like a filter where you can see outside and inside. And it's like, it was like I had to make it happen.
Well, if you think about it, it's like going to work out for the first time. And if you go to the gym, you do a workout and like doesn't work, and there's a million different diets and all this stuff. It's like, if you put yourself on the right diet that like works with your chemistry and everything that like makes you feel good and energized, and then you go to a gym and maybe you find like a workout partner that like does all these little like ticks and stuff, it's different for each person. So it's like, if getting that space is like what hits your ticks to make you the most creative and the most energized to work, like that's way more optimized for you to reach your goals than to put yourself in a space where it's like saving money and like I wake up and I'm lazy and I don't feel like working here and it doesn't makes me not want to go to the gym. It's like, dude, you're just like diminishing your potential. So it's like, yeah, I might have to spend a little more and do more, but if you're the type of person that goes like, if you work out all the time, I have a shitty diet, like it's not probably going to work out for you. But if you like work out all the time and then have a great diet and there's all these things that come together, it's like, bro, you're going to become this like super optimized version of yourself. So it's like anything with that, like an office or whatever, it's like, yeah, like there's a cost to some of this, but there's also a cost to like not doing this. And then
there's opportunity cost.
Absolutely. It's like, and fucking, then you're like, dude, I've just been sitting on my ass for a whole year because I'm not really motivated. I don't want to I'm like, dude, I'm going to push myself to the edge. And I might go into a territory of unknown, but for me, every time I've gone to this territory of unknown, I learn all these things. And then I become a better version of myself. I'm like, man, this is kind of like, I don't know, man, maybe I'm doing too much, right? And then like 6 months later, I look back, I'm like, bro, that's like nothing now. It's like I'm expanding like how much I can do and like what I'm capable of. And then I'm meeting new people and networking and like, it's just different, It's like that's why I take meetings all the time now. Like I take having a meeting after this, I'm like, I don't know where it's gonna go. It could be a bullshit meeting, but I might rub shoulders with the right guy, and we may do a deal in 9 months. And it's like, dude, if I didn't just take that fucking meeting, he may put me on to something else, where I might like nerd out on some new topic of real estate and be like, fuck, I just found this like whole new pool of shit I could be, putting money into and like actually turning this into a really successful venture. So like, I don't know. It's something to say about like just like pushing yourself to like go and try and like maybe put yourself in these fucking uncomfortable spots where like maybe it makes you a little more financially tight. But it's like if it's financially tight, it puts me in a better position to succeed. It's like you're gonna make that money back.
Yeah, I think it that was a good topic you brought up, which is just like there's always a lot of times people try to mitigate risk, but they don't consider like the risk of the opportunity cost, like
Yeah.
or they mitigate the cost. It's like, well, the opportunity cost could sometimes be greater than the fiscal cost, you know, of just making a decision, which I think like when you start building a habit of not only taking the risk and like going into that unknown territory, you know, saying yes and figuring it out. Like when you build a habit of that, you become more comfortable with that where it doesn't seem so intimidating. And then you also, like something I've noticed through having like started various businesses and different skill sets is that I think like when you start out doing that and you're younger, like you're kind of on this timeline and you don't really know like where you are at in the process, right? But now, you know, like we're both around the same age and it's like we've gone and we've developed enough skills and we've done enough different things that when you're in that unknown pocket, it's much easier to see like, oh, I'm at this part of the process and you know like kind of the pace of the rest of fulfilling that loop,
Right.
rather than when you do it for the first time and you're just like I remember like not really going to college and seeing everyone else graduate and being like, what the fuck am I doing? And it didn't really make sense until like maybe like 23, 24, when you see like a lot of those people still no better off than you are, but like somehow you've developed these skills where you're like, oh, you know, I think I'm like starting to figure it out. And then, you know, inevitably it runs back. But it just makes it less intimidating. And that cycle seems to like speed up, at least to me over time, where it's like, I've been thinking about I was looking at the music thing last night. It's like something popped up and I'm like, damn, it was a year ago. I was like sitting here doing covers and knew nothing about production, mixing, like any of this own stuff. And now I'm like, damn, I just
And
did
now that's nothing.
now I've done like 50 something. I remember it taking like a week to do a song and like just not even knowing how to get my vocals to like be on the right timing. And it's like you learn so many, like over the last year of just throwing myself into it. It's like I could do a song in like a few hours and have it mixed, mastered, like totally done. And it's just like, it's wild, like how quickly you can accelerate when you just commit to that and you don't worry so much about all those unknown, you know, variables.
Yeah, I remember when my friends were in school and like I don't think it really hit me until their younger siblings were graduating. So like they're like 3-4 years under them, and when they were graduating school and I still hadn't really like gotten to where I wanted to be, I was like fuck, like you know, like I would go and it'd be like a holiday and, you know, you go back for Thanksgiving and people's parents like, so like, when are you going to go back to school? You know, and then they graduate and I'm like, no, I'm still on this journey that I'm on. You know, I was like doing the clothing company and then I was doing web design and running that agency. And then like, you know, but it was like still like, you know, I'd have a good month and then it would just be like this long span of, I don't know, I have these like little wins here and there. And then like when my friends siblings started graduating, I was like, dude, there's a no going back. You know, like I'm too far down in the process, and maybe that's somewhat of an ego thing. But I just remember at that point, I looked at myself and I was going out and I was drinking and like I'd make some money. I'd like blow it all, just go to the bars and like pretend to like have money for everybody and just like buy drinks for fucking people that I don't give a fuck about me, you know, aren't helping me get anywhere. And I just remember I had this like solid like time, like a whole week where I just was like, dude, like either I'm gonna fucking like double down on myself and really fucking do this, or I'm gonna stay in this cycle forever where I'm just fucking, you know, going to the bar, making fucking nominal money and like in my hometown, like kind of being somewhat of a cool guy. And I was just like, looked at everybody I was hanging out with and I was like, what are my goals? And at the time I was like, I want to get in really good shape. And I want to fucking blow this business up and I want to be fucking rich. Like I want to fucking make money. And I was just like, what am I doing on a regular basis? I just did a self audit. I was like, I'm going to the bars like 4 nights a week. I was like, is that helping me get in better shape? Is that helping me? The people I'm hanging out with at the bar, are they helping me get in shape? Are they motivating me to go to the gym? I was like, they're fucking not. I was like, what's holding me back from fucking growing my business? I was like, most of it's like, any of the money I'm making, if I have any fucking, you know, extra capital, it's like I'm just blowing it on like going to the bars, drinking, like trying to look cool. And I remember it was like when younger, like my brother who's older than me would tell me that, like, dude, you're just fucking around, like you're not really fucking doing anything, like you just want to look cool for everybody. And like I just finally like it resonated enough in my brain that like it went from like this kind of annoying person like chirping at me and like kind of knowing that in my head to like finally be like, dude, I'm sick and tired of being that guy. like, I wanna be this better version of myself, and I just remember I turned off my social media, I fucking stopped going out, and I just, like, quadrupled down on myself. Worked out, I was doing 2-a-days, I remember I'd wake up 3 in the morning, work out, I'd be working till 3, I'd go to the gym, I remember I'd be just fucking like, "Bro, if you want to fucking do it, you can do it. You just have to like, something has to light that fucking fire," and I was just fucking fed up with myself. I was like, "I'm fed up of being the guy that wants to be something bigger than he is and is not fucking I'm not doing enough."
Yeah.
And, like, that's, like I remember that was a key point, and I see a lot of people that, like, that's what you need. You need to hit that point where, like, you are the only person that can make yourself do this. And, like, we can make all the excuses. I used to make all the excuses in the world for why I can't work out, whatever. Still now, like, when I'm not motivated, I'm like, I get it. Like, there's some brain chemistry and all these other things at play, but I'm like, dude, you gotta fucking, like, just fucking get up and go, you know? Like, you gotta fucking, like, kick yourself in the ass. And so, like, I don't know. It's just, like, that for me was, like, a huge pinnacle turning point to, like, getting the fucking needle moving and then, like, really, like, putting myself and, like, it was, you know, it's like sometimes you gotta sacrifice a little bit to fucking get to where you wanna go.
Yeah.
And I still do that now. It's just, like, that's, like, one of those things where I loop back, like, you talk about that circle, like, whenever I get kind of in this, like, lull and I'm, like, kinda, like, I feel like I'm, like, lagging a little bit, I, like, remind myself, like, dude, like, you need to what are you doing? Like, let's audit what you're doing, like, who you're hanging out with, like, and just fucking, like, revamp yourself, and then I kick myself in the ass again. I'm like, "Oh, I gotta fucking hit the ground running." It's like, bro, I'm gonna either go to the bar and hang out with a bunch of people that are all their goal is to maybe make six figures this year, and, like, they just wanna, like, get that apartment, and I'm like, "Bro, like, we're doing 100x that now." So I'm like, "Dude, I shouldn't be doing what they're doing. I shouldn't be like, I'm not saying I shouldn't be hanging out with them. I'm like, if I'm spending most of my time with them, like, those people aren't going to elevate me. Like, I need to be taking meetings and hang out with people that are thinking on a fucking way grander scale because I'm above those people in some regards. It's like, I need to be hanging out with people that are above me. They like pull me up and expand my brain and make me think bigger, make me go for more, take bigger risks. You know, it's like, I don't know. It's just like, it's something to be said. It's like, just like kicking yourself in the ass and then like knowing that, you know, it's again, like when you get back around that process where you level up and you're this new unknown, you're like, I don't know. And you kind of like in that lull phase and you like, again, remind yourself like last time I was in this, I fucking pushed myself to do it. And then like, here I am, I've leveled up. You know, you just keep doing
It's
that.
It's important not to like lose the momentum of going through that process. Yeah, it's easy to want to like chill out up there and then like you get stuck doing that and then it's easy to like slip back the other direction.
Yeah.
If you don't just like continue pushing forward.
Exactly.
What would you say is like the first big stride you had? Because I remember for me, like going way back, I remember not being in school. I remember like, and when you're not in school and you can probably resonate with this, like the only other people that aren't in school are like
a bunch of
people that are either doing real shit or fucking like drug dealers and shitbags.
Yeah,
so
but
it's
95% of the people that you hang out with are just a bunch of shitbags.
Yeah, absolutely.
Drug dealer, like not doing anything, like go to the local bar, like be able to buy fucking bottom shelf shots for everybody, and like Patron is like you're the baller.
Yeah,
like,
well, and I remember too, like especially back then, like you know, you hang out with a bunch of people in like nightlife, for instance, and like people get hookups and stuff like that at different places you go out to. So you just like you kind of like
a hamster wheel.
Yeah, you can get in like a group think and like trapped in a bubble where you don't realize like how toxic it really is. But I remember for me, like I got super into working out. I was like, I have nothing to do. I'm just going to go to the gym like all the time. And, you know, like I have pretty decent genetics where I was getting results. And I remember like being, a lot of the time I'd spend in like Facebook groups, just like bullshitting around, just being in these different communities, bodybuilding.com forums. I remember I saw this ad that like popped up that was like, you know, apply for like teen amateur of the week. I think I was like 19 at the time still. So I just like wrote up this article about myself. And then I remember being at like a Christmas party one year. And someone was like, "Hey, congrats on the article or something." And I was like, "Huh?" And I checked the thing, and they like picked me as like teen amateur of the year on bodybuilding.com. It's like put me on the fucking front page of bodybuilding.com, which like 2011 or whatever it was, 2012. That was like everyone bought their supplements on bodybuilding.com. Yeah. So like overnight, I had like thousands of people coming to my Facebook page, like ask me for coaching. And like at this time, I was in these Facebook groups where people were like, "Yeah, like online coaching, this, that." So I was like, fuck it, I'm just going to say yes. Like, I remember that being like my first job where I was like, I'm making some money, like just selling workout plans, like I picked up a camera. I was like, I got to start making videos. Like, and it opened doors. Like, I remember making those videos, and this other guy that was in this group I was in was like, hey, you know, notice you have a little following. We're building this platform to like kind of, you know, professionalize online coaching a little bit more. Would love to like have you on and just like buy all your videos from you, and, you know, basically let you just like work as one of the main trainers on our site, and we'll pay you on top. I was like, say no more. Like, it literally went from like, it was the difference between me being like, damn, I'm completely useless and I have no idea what I'm doing. I have no money and I don't know how, and I'd see all these people make money online, to like literally that materializing literally almost if what felt like overnight, even though it was hedged upon like a bunch of smaller things. And that for me, that was like my first big stride where I was like, this is like, I just made this happen just from like doing what I was interested in, you know?
Yeah, I'd say I have a couple like strides that got me along, but I remember the first one was when I had that t-shirt company, and I made a bunch of cut and sew V-necks in the USA. And I was like, you know, this is like when being on Instagram and fucking, I mean, you were using like the basic filters. And like, you know, I was like built my own website. Like you know, it's like when all e-commerce was really kind of like turning up, and like Shopify was just coming out. It was like the new thing versus like big commerce. And I had an order that came in from Puerto Rico for like $8,000 for like, and I remember I was sitting on inventory. I'd sell shirts here and there, but I had a lot of inventory. And when I saw it, I was like, bro, like this is, I mean, I had never had like $1,000 in my bank account, you know, like I had $8,000. I was like, bro, I'm rich, you know, I remember I blew probably 2,000 of it in like 2 weeks, like just going to the bars, going to buy like 7 jeans at Nordstrom, like just stupid as fuck, you know, and then I was like, well, fuck. And then the guy ordered a little bit more, and then I had some like quality control issues, but like that was my first one where I was like, you know, I've been selling stuff and maybe friends are buying it here and there, and like people are just buying it as like courtesy. But that was the first time it was like a nobody out of nowhere that I have no fucking relation to saw us on social media somehow and like placed this, what was a fucking big ass order for me. And like that was like first like really instilled confidence. Like, yeah, like fuck, I dropped out of school and somehow I've created a product that somewhere some person from far away in fucking Puerto Rico of all fucking places like thinks this is viable enough to then put in his store. I've never taken like a wholesale order or anything. This guy paid me up front for it. You know, I took like a PayPal payment for it. And that gave me like a huge like uptick. Probably the next was like when I was really pushing selling like websites and stuff, I would just go on Craigslist or like monster.com and I'd look at, you know, I was starting to build websites. Like after the clothing stuff, this artist, Giannis, had a show in Chapel Hill, and I think a friend of mine or somebody like clicked me up with him to give him gear. So I gave him some shirts and shit. He's like, dude, these are sick. And he was like, dude, I'm trying to make merch. He was small time at the time. And so I was helping him like design some merch and do some stuff. And then like, he was like, well, dude, you're pretty good at graphics. Like, can you do cover art? And so like, I'd start making him like cover art. And like, even now to this day, like his digital signature he uses on is like the one that I made. And then from there, it was like, you know, I was selling stuff online. He's like, dude, I need to sell merch, but I need to do it online. So it's like, can you help me like building a website? And so I kind of took that. I was like, you know, I like building merch. I like all the creative, but like fucking selling this stuff I've been doing, like there's so many returns. And then I was, you know, like the quality control issues. And so like, I don't really want to deal with that. So I kind of just pivoted right then and there. I was like, I can mitigate my overhead and then I could just build stuff for people. And so I was basically, how do I build a customer base? So I was just going out on like Craigslist or monster.com and looking at people that had listings for jobs. Like, we need a web developer for $60K a year. And I'm like, dude, I can build you this website for, you know, 10K, you know, and you don't have to train somebody. Cause all my friends were getting their jobs and they'd be like, yeah, you know, I have a degree in finance and I'm working in banking, but they're like, dude, I'm not using any of my finance degree. They're sending me to London for 9 weeks for training and I learned everything there. So I'm like, all right, there's an opportunity cost. Like, I can pitch to this job, you know, listing that, hey, you're going to spend $60K and then 9 weeks to train this guy so he can learn this. I was like, I already know all this and I can get you this done now and I can do it for 10K versus you paying somebody 60K. And so like I started doing that. And I remember I would like pitch somebody in New York. I was like, you know, I burned through North Carolina and all the surrounding areas. I pitched somebody in New York and I would just be like, hey, I want to do this. Like, hey, you know, we love what you've done. You know, can you come in and meet with us? And I'm like, oh, I'm not in town today, but I can be there Friday. And so then I would like buy a flight, but like a lot of times it'd be like, you know, the flight's $400 and like I got $460 in my bank account. So I'm like, if I buy this flight and go up to New York, Like, I need to close
I
this
gotta get this.
like, and it goes back to me saying earlier, it's like, I kind of like, I thrive in putting my back against the wall. I'm like, I put myself in a position where like, I have no choice but to fucking execute on this or I'm fucked. And so like, I would throw myself and I would just, it's like when I became really good at sales, I would just crush. I'd walk into this meeting, not prepared at all, you know, like, and I would just go in and I'd crush it. And it was maybe because I was on the forefront of like e-commerce building, like nobody really knew what the fuck was going on, you know? And there's a lot of bullshitters out there like making these half-ass shitty websites. So I just pick up these contracts. And that's how I built out that agency. Like that's where I was making like, you know, I started making like 80 grand a year doing that in that first year. And that was like my biggest win. And I would just take contracts here and there and like, you know, try to pick up jobs. But it started getting, that kind of burned me out when I started outsourcing and then just like managing outsourcers. And eventually I got burned out on that. I got fucked a couple times. Like the outsourcer couldn't execute. And so it's like, you know, then I don't get paid and I'm out a lot of money because I paid the outsourcer. And so
I think there's something though, because, you know, as you know, like I did an agency as well. And I think that one of the benefits of doing an agency is that you learn so many different skills underneath it. I mean, you learn offer creation, you learn tactically how to develop websites. I mean, like there's a lot of people that would look at someone like you and I, and they wouldn't even have any idea how many like underlying skills there really are, which like now allow us to have that context to like hire and find better talent because we're able to like really see through the bullshit. Like, is this person just running one over me? Like I can ask them a very specific question about video editing, photo, audio, web development, you know, any really like different marketing systems.
I mean,
like,
we had that one guy come in and it's like, you know, it's like, I can sniff through the bullshit because I've done it all. And I think that's super important in any business, whatever it is like, you need to start at the ground level, do it yourself. And as you build up, like you have no choice but to like build the website. You have no choice but to like handle all the customer service. You have no choice but to like write up, like learn language to like write up a contract and like do a sales order and, you know, create packaging and maybe Photoshop. And so like all these things you accumulate and they may not be all your like greatest skills, but you had no choice, right? And then as you grow and hire people to like take over those so that are actually masters in that craft, in that area, it's like when somebody comes into you that you're hiring and you're in that hiring process, like, you know, like I know what the end result needs to be. I know what the work looks like. I know that there's somebody that's way more optimized at doing this and is actually knows all the nuances and like, you know, the best practice, you know, for Photoshop. It's like, I can also tell when you're fucking lying to me, you know, because it's not like I don't know what Photoshop is and I don't know the nuances of it. Just like, you're supposed to be the better version. So like, if you're trying to like upsell me on the bullshit and like bridge the gap like I used to do, I'm like, bro, I can sniff that out real easily. Yeah.
Well, and also too, like in doing that, I remember there were so many learning opportunities. Like I remember doing the agency and going from like being on this wheel, thinking I had a really good offer, and then having this corporation that I got like pretty much walked into by a mentor that was like, hey, this is the guy. And I'd never really worked with like a corporation, right? Yeah. And they're like, this is what we need. Here's the annual budget. Like, we're going to cut the check like in November, December, probably because they want to like spend all this money November, December. So that before that, I had no idea like this is what big corporations do. Easiest contract I've ever had, or like simplest rather, biggest amount of dollars I've ever been paid for that amount of work. Easiest, like, you know, easiest thing to like deal with because there wasn't a ton of negotiation. There's like, here's the budget, here's the brief, here's this, that, the other. And like, I was like, I need to do more of those. Now, what I did learn is like right when COVID happened, that was like the first thing to go. They're like, we're not renewing this. I'm like, oh, damn.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, I just never knew. I was like, until I was in that situation where I was just like kept pushing forward and like honing in my skill set to where I got the opportunity to do that. Like, I'm pretty sure this corporation thought they were hiring a team of people. Like, it was really just me.
It's perception.
It was me. And then I'd batch all this content and send it to them. And I'm like, this is relatively easy. You know?
Well, I think that also goes like going back to talking about the Stone and it having a higher level of like our customer base and what we're doing. Like when you deal with when you deal with somebody in a certain price point, like those motherfuckers are all business. They're like, I don't have time to dilly dally. I want this done. Can you execute? If the answer is yes, and you've shown that to me, then I'm ready to fucking pay and get the fucking job done. But you start dealing these lower price point where everybody's fucking budgeting. You know, it's like I would sell websites to somebody for $500 and like they wanted like a $6,000 website for $500. Yeah. And that guy's the guy that's knick-knacking everything, asking for 1 million revisions, doesn't know what he wants. It's the most amount of work. You're pulling teeth. you're arguing with them. They're like, dude, you're not even paying for what you're trying to get. And it's like,
and they're calling their credit card company at the end.
Those are the most
chargeback.
complicated people to deal with. And so like, I think that's like, again, like goes to show it's like when you deal in a certain level, it's like business is business and people want to fucking get stuff done. And it's like, it's not a conversation. It's like, dude, our budget's 20 grand and I want to fucking, you know, and even if you're like, well, you could really get it done for 12, like, no, 20 grand, I want it done. And I don't want to fucking micromanage and have a headache. I want you to come to me in 2 weeks and fucking have this finished. And you're like, that's where it's like, all right, man, like that's the realm I like to play in because I know I can fucking execute. I don't want to deal with all the fucking headache. Neither are fucking they. And so it's like, that's, I don't know. I think people can learn from that. It's like, you need to do some of that bullshit to get up, but you learn real fast. It's like, dude, it's not worth my time. I remember doing a contract that was cheap. And I remember every call I would get on, I'd be like, I hate this call. I hate this contract. I hate fucking doing it. I'm fucking miserable. And I'm like, I'm waiting for them to fire me and not pay me. I'm just like, fire me and not pay me because like I'm fucking done with this. Yeah. And I'm like, I do need the money, but like it's like my mental fucking like my mental threshold. I'm at it, you know. And like this isn't worth my time. So it's like,
well, to your point too, the people that like I feel like almost anyone that has the mindset that you're talking about previously has been in that same situation enough where they're like, I'm never going to be that person. Like, I want it done. I want it done correctly. The cost to me is, does it take away from my peace and my ability to continue doing what I'm supposed to be doing? And if it does, like that, it's not worth it. Like, even if it's the best deal, it's like, it's not, I'm not going to deal with it, you know? Yeah. And I feel like we both share that because like when we find the right talent, and we work with people, it's just like this person's a yes immediately. Like if they just come in, they vibe. Like you're talking about what Hormozy was saying about firing people that don't, you know, just fit the vibe of the rest of the group, and like it's just so true. Like having that peace and that mental clarity, and just being able to like stay in your bag on whatever it is that you know you need to be doing is how you push forward.
I don't want to fucking micromanage you. Like I'm hiring you, and the point of hiring you is you alleviate like a specific task or role for me. And I don't want to sit there and be over your fucking shoulder and make it done. So I'd rather pay up for somebody if it's an 80K job, you know, across the nation, and I'm giving them 100. I'm like, I'm gonna give you 100. You're gonna fucking crush. And then when we level up as a business, I don't have to worry about you being like, I don't know. I'm like, you maybe are like, you know, you're like too good for the current role, but I know that we're going to be here. So when it comes out, it's like, I don't even have to, you know, like that's when you're making your money. Yeah. Like you're coming there and you're crushing. I'm like, I don't have to worry about you. Like you're fucking crushing it for me every day. And then I can go focus on what I need to be doing, because I don't need to be doing that. Yeah. Like, and so like paying up for that peace of mind and that execution, and like not having to micromanage, and like getting your time back so that you can go do whatever it is like the most important thing in your skill sets. Like, bro, that's to me is like, and I've hired cheap people and I fucking fired them. And I'm like, every time I've done, I'm like, why the fuck didn't we just like, we should just pay up. Like now I'm like, I tell Rob all the time now, I'm like, we should just pay up, because I'd rather pay up a little bit and have people get crushed. It's like, now it's like, fuck man, we've hired all these people, and he's sitting there. He's like, fuck man, I wish I had a guy that could like be the dude and run this aspect, but I still got to be that guy. I'm like, we should have hired up so that you don't have to, so we can go tackle this, you know? Yeah. And so like, we're, again, the opportunity cost by not paying up to 20 grand. It's like, we might be leaving 20 million on the table over here, you know? Yeah, absolutely. And it's honestly, it's like, it could be that big of a fucking gap. Like that's like situation, man. I'm like, dude, like we should be fucking doing this, you know? Like, and we can't, because we're fucking over here, like sucked into managing, you know, different aspects that like, really, we shouldn't have to be doing that. So like, it's like a focus on doing it. And again, like even with hiring, people look at it, it's like, oh, if I'm paying this guy 100 grand a year. In your brain, I don't know why, but like for me, and I think for a lot of people, it's like sometimes you're like, oh, I'm writing that check right now, like 100 grand out of pocket. I'm like, it's really not, you know. It's like 100 grand. It's like, you know, you're after taxes, whatever. It's like 8 grand a month. You know, it's like whatever it is. It's like, all right, you could like test this person out for a month. It might cost you 10 grand, but that's like, then you can, you know, you hire and you fire real fast, you know. And then it's like, my goal is like, if I hire those people, if I hire you for 100 grand, you should be bringing me back at least double and a half in value, whether that's time value or you're bringing in customers, you're bringing more money, like whatever it is. It's like, I don't look at it as like, oh, I mean, he cost me 100. It's like, he should be making me 300 off get, you know? And if not, then like fire that motherfucker. And that's not like anything personal. It's like, I'm just fucking running a business, dude. Yeah. Like I want fucking killers out here. Like we keep talking about like in the freight industry, like I want a bunch of fucking dogs. I want some hungry motherfuckers that want to go crush. Like, and that's what I got. Everybody I'm trying to hire now is like, I want fucking integrators. I want people that crush. I want people that want to run a motherfucking department. I don't want somebody that wants to be a fucking just foot soldier in the fucking department. Like, act like you want to be the guy, you know, and then fucking execute on it.
Yeah. Touche. Well, we're coming up on your time limit. I think that's probably a good place to end it.
Yeah.
Solid pod. Episode 3, Since I Was Broke. We're on every platform. We follow us on TikTok. All the other things.
Yeah, sorry.
If you're looking to be an alpha dog,
I'll tell you what,
Charlotte,
we're hiring. If you if you're a killer salesperson, I mean killer salespeople, and I don't need like a bullshitter, because like I can tell if you can sell in fucking 3 minutes. Walk into my fucking office, DM me, send me a fucking email. I'm looking for sales killers, and I fucking pay. I'll pay you on the front end, and I'll pay you on the fucking back end. I'm looking for fucking people that want to be in freight. Fucking outside freight sales, inside freight fucking, like, negotiating, like, bro, we're fucking hiring, but I want fucking animals in here. If you're a fucking creative, we want the best videographers, the best photographers, the best editors. Like, I'll fucking pay for it, and we'll put you in a fucking environment where you can succeed. Like, we're a bunch. This is a group of a bunch of people that fucking want to crush and kill, and it's like I want people that come that want to do that and fucking show it. Like, put your money, you know, like, put my money where your mouth is. Like, come to me and be like, dude, I'm worth $100,000, and show me in a fucking month. Come back and be like, bro, I told you. Like, I'm a fucking animal. Like, I can fucking close these deals. Like, I want fucking show me, and let's go have a fucking steak dinner and go fucking drink tequila. And like, I want those people. I will fucking pay for those people. So we're fucking hiring. Yeah. You want a job? Fucking DM me.
But you have to come to Charlotte.
Yeah, you got to fucking live in Charlotte, and you got to come into the fucking office too. Don't fucking listen. I'm all for dynamic and fucking flying all over and working from wherever, because you should be able to do that. If you're fucking like a real successful person, should always be able to do that. Yeah. But if you think you're not gonna fucking come in the office and collaborate and work and fucking meeting of the minds and fucking work out with us at fucking midnight and fucking then also like not go out and fucking, you think you're just gonna come and celebrate the wins with us but not be in the fucking trenches? Like, come fucking be in the trenches.
Yeah. Don't take shit.
Yeah. Fuck, don't steal shit either.
Yeah, don't steal shit.
So I fire thieves.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, that's what we can say in the pod. Just fire them.
Yeah.
All
right. Podcast over.
Kid Rock signing off.
Kid Rock's always signing off.
All right.
Kid Rock's got a meeting.